Okay. All right. I'm just going to tell you, I put this up. I I'll do it this week. I probably do it every other week. I write a weekly blog. I will send you out. I try to make it where at most it takes 2 minutes to read. Um, it's usually about things that I think are important, but we don't have time to discuss in class. So if you give it a read, there's always a chance to comment and give me your feedback. So that's that. All right. He starts with scarcity. And what is scarcity? It's unlimited wants and limited resources. Unlimited wants and limited resources. And that's really the study of economics. Like the study of economics is how society manages scarce resources. So scarcity is unlimited wants with limited resources. And remember, everyone faces scarcity. All right. There's always scarcity. Economics is how society manages scarce resources. So economics is how society manages scarce resources. Now, he talks about how people face trade-offs. And one of the examples he gives is efficiency and equality. Equality is distributing things equally. So equality would be saying everyone gets an A. Or if we have a pie, everyone gets the same slice of the pie. Efficiency is getting the most out of scarce resources. That's being on the production possibilities curve. So efficiency is getting the most out of the scarce resources. Now, here's why there's a trade-off. In economics, in order to make like income equal or get it closer to equal, you usually tax the rich and redistribute the wealth to the poor. Well, economists would say when you tax the rich, you're giving them less incentive to make money. Therefore, it's less efficient. All right. So there's the trade off: more equality, less efficiency. All right. I would put a star there only because they seem to like to ask questions about equality and efficiency. The cost of something is what you give up to get it. That's the definition of opportunity cost. So if you're looking at the outline, it says the cost of something is what you give up to get. That is the definition of opportunity cost. Remember, trade-offs is every alternative you gave up. So trade-offs would be everything you gave up to be here. So you could be studying another class. You could be eating. You could be gaming. You could be sleeping. You could be playing sports. All those are trade-offs. The opportunity is the best thing that you gave up to be here. And that, say, is gaming. By the way, I'm going to up the chat here. And if you guys have a question, you can just jot it into the chat and I'll stop and answer it. All right. He then talks about rational people think at the margin. What he's actually saying is something we went over in class. Marginal benefit has to be greater or equal to marginal cost. Marginal benefit has to be greater or equal to marginal cost. All right. So that means if I'm benefiting $2 to drink a Diet Coke, I'm willing to pay $2 for the first Diet Coke. If it costs $1.50, I'll buy it. If it's the Sage and it costs $2.75, I won't buy it. All right. That's the marginal benefit has to be greater or equal to marginal cost. All right. People respond to incentives. Economists really don't need to know. Relatively steep demand curve, you don't need to know. That was in the appendix, and I told you you didn't have to read it. Okay, Ed? Emmanuel, rather, you don't need to know that.
Right.
All right. People respond. So what is an incentive? An incentive is something that gets people to act. Something that gets people to act. So, getting a good grade for some of you are incentives to study because you want to get a good grade. All right. Economists really focus and study on incentives. All right. For now, we're going to think trade helps both parties. We'll learn a little more about trade like Friday and Monday, but for now, trade helps both parties. And why? It allows one country to specialize in its lowest opportunity cost. So one country gets to specialize, and it also gives you greater variety. So trade helps both countries because it allows one to specialize and two, greater variety. Markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity. All right. He talks here about two types of markets. One is a central economy. Central economy. A central economy is where government decides what products should be made, who should make them, and how many. So a central economy is where government decides what products should be made, who should make them, and how many. A market economy, firms and households decide what to make, who should make it, and how many. In a market economy, firms and households decide what to make, who's going to make it, and how many. All right. Government can sometimes improve market outcomes. This happens in what they call market failures. And I can't see them asking you about this, but a market failure is when the market, left on its own, does not allocate resources efficiently. So a market failure is when the market on its own does not allocate resources efficiently. And an externality is an example of that. If households really want more computers, all right, so if the demand for computers increase, that's going to get firms to make more computers. And if households want certain products, firms are going to develop those products and make quality. And yes, I would say that is the invisible hand. Are you good on that now, Dane?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay. Thank you for asking. All right. A country standard of living. All right. What I want you to know is there is a direct correlation. If productivity goes up, standard of living goes up. All right. And if you take the practice quiz, they give you like an example of how to figure out standard of living. There's a question or two on standard of living. So I would definitely know an increase in productivity will increase the standard of living. I can't imagine them not asking that on the quiz. Okay. All right, when the government prints too much money, it causes inflation, and inflation is a general rising of prices, meaning most products' prices are going up. It's not like just soda's going up, but most products' prices. And that occurs when government prints too much money. Now, in the short run, there's a trade-off between inflation and unemployment. And it's an inverse relationship. If inflation goes up, unemployment goes down. And I would know that. Inverse relationship, inflation up, unemployment down. And here's why. If there's inflation, people have a lot of money. So they then, with their extra money, buy products. The demand for products increase. So now firms need to make more product. So they have to hire more workers. So unemployment goes down. So high inflation gives a lot of people extra money in their pocket. All right. They buy more products. The demand for the products causes firms to need to make more of them. They hire more workers, unemployment down. All right. That's basically chapter 1. Thinking like a scientist. It's hard for economists to experiment. All right. It's hard for economists to experiment. What you need to know about the Phillips curve really is the inverse relationship between unemployment and inflation in the short run. Okay. I don't know what that is, but okay. So it's hard for economists to experiment. Why? Say economists want, it's not like they could tell the government, print a lot of money so we can see as inflation occur. Like, because that could screw up the economy. So what economists have to do is really look at historical data and see when countries printed a lot of money, what would happen. All right. So they have a hard time experimenting like actual cause and effect because they can't, like, say, print a lot of money or take all the money out of circulation or fire a lot of people and see what happens when unemployment is high. So they got to look at historical data. So we get to here's our circular flow. All right. Now, if you look on the practice test, the inside is what they blocked out. Put it like A, B, C, D around inside. They do it a bit. Oh, and the outside. So they blocked out the inside and the outside. And so let me just first go. If goods and services on the top, factors have to be on the bottom. Firms are on the left, households have to be on the right. They're opposites. All right. They could blank those out. Just know the opposite of goods and services is going to be factors. The opposite of firms is going to be households. Now, they can ask you a question like, Henry mowed Mr. Bressler's lawn. When Mr. Bressler paid him, where is the transaction? All right. So the first transaction is the red from households to factors of production, right? I hire Henry, he works for me, and then me paying him is the green that's going from the factors of production to the household. If they said to me, I'm just paying Henry, that would just be the green. So no, the outside is the money, the inside is the land labor, on the bottom is the factors of production, on the top is the goods and services. All right, remember, firms, so I think this is opposite of how the book, I think households and firms are on the other side for the book. Firms supply in the product market, the goods and services, households demand. And the factor to market, household supply, because we are the labor, firms demand. Okay. All right. Yeah, let me get to the chat because there's a question. That factors of production are actually inputs. Yes. Factor of production, that would be like labor, people working. Factories are capital goods. That would be a factor of production. Is that good, Henry? Okay. Questions? Okay. Okay. Next economic model is the production possibilities curve, which I feel we're really good at. So I'm hoping there's a couple of questions because I think you really guys are good. All right, on the curve, A, B, C, whatever's on the curve, that is efficient. Okay. Anything in the curve, like C, it's inefficient. Employment would be in the curve. It's inefficient. And F, unattainable with present day resources. So everything on the curve, efficient. Everything inside the curve, inefficient. F, unattainable with present day resources. Okay. Now, yes, E is unemployment. It could be anywhere inside the circle. If it's bowed like this, increasing opportunity costs, and resources not easily adaptable. Okay. All right. Now, I mean, the only type of tricky, I think you guys are good at the shifters, and I'll go over them again. Change in quantity or quality of resource, increasing opportunity costs. Yes, Sebastian. Change in quantity or quality of resource, change in technology, change in human resources, change in capital stock. Remember, capital stocks like equipment, machines, things that make things. If there's a change, say in capital stock, that affects both beef and pikes, we would have the circle bowed out like that. Okay. All right, I'm going to just erase this for now. I see there's a question in the chat. I'll get to it in a second. Change in quality. Think of what an iPhone could do compared to what a flip phone could do. Okay, so say in a flip phone, like originally you couldn't text, so the quality of the phone got better. Like an iPhone, you could text. All right, a flip phone, I couldn't use as a computer. An iPhone is like a computer, so the quality has changed. Charlie, did that answer your question?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. Hold it. Someone's asking, oh, it's typically beef. You mean beef, not beer, right? Yeah, I would say for no, because it's not going to be as many pikes. As you move down, the opportunity cost is going to increase for beef. Oh, it is beer. Sorry, I thought it was beef. As you go down, the opportunity cost should increase. An example of capital stock. Factories, ovens that make pizza or food, tractors, sewing machines. Does that make sense, Dane?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Okay, good questions. Whoops. All right, there's another question there. Let me. Well, it'd be easier if there's numbers, but that's when it's bowed out because resources are not easily adaptable. As you making more beef, opportunity cost is going to increase. That's what the bowed out curve says, because resources are not easily adaptable. So therefore, as you go further and further, as you're making more and more beer, rather, you're using people who all they know how to do is make mountain bikes. So they're not very efficient. So it increases the opportunity cost. Is what like marginal benefit, Alex? Tyler, that
So,
makes sense to you, by the way.
So like when you like the further down you move B, like the cost of increasing the mountain bikes increases so much that it like doesn't become viable unless the demand for bikes is super high.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it doesn't become viable. It's just the opportunity cost just increases more.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Alex, is what like marginal benefit?
Like that's what I was like asking just now. Like if you produce more mountain bikes than beer, like won't that like drive up the mountain bikes after like the price of the mountain bikes after a certain point, or like diminish their like worth or whatever, or like
No, because we really don't know the demand for the bikes. All this is talking about is production of bikes and opportunity cost, not actual cost. Does that help?
yes.
Okay. Now, I don't know would they do this, just in case. Just remember, straight line, the constant opportunity cost. Okay. Why? Because resources are easily adaptable. Okay. Constant opportunity cost, because resources are easily adaptable. Okay. All right. Micro is households and firms. Micro is households and firms. Macro is the study of the whole economy. Micro is households and firms. Macro is the study of the entire economy. Positive statements are facts. Point B is efficient. That's a fact. Normative statements are opinion or value judgments. Okay. So that would be like President Biden has horrible economic policies. That's a value judgment. The stock market is going up because of President Biden's policies. That's a value judgment. Okay. All right. That's what I think you need to know in chapter 1 and 2. Now, are there any questions say on practice quiz about chapter 1? And I'd like to look to see, can I pull up chapter 1's? Let me see here. Nah, for whatever reason, chapter 1's not available. I don't think the invisible hand will be on it. Oh no, you don't have to know about the business cycle. Manku took it out of chapter 1, so it will not be on your quiz. It was in the older edition that I had. So no, it will not be on the quiz, nor will, I think there was a downward sloping demand curve in chapter 2. If it's not in chapter 1 or chapter 2, it will not be on the quiz. Chapter 3 will not be on the quiz, just chapter 1 and 2. Number 10 on practice quiz 1. Okay, I'm going to read this. A worker in Thailand can earn $2 per day making cotton cloth on a hand loom. A worker in the United States can earn 80 per day making cotton cloth with a mechanical loom. What accounts for the difference in wages? Okay, so the answer is C. Labor is more productive making cotton cloth because with the mechanical loom, you're making so much more cotton cloth that you could pay someone $80 a day to do it. All right. Where by hand, you're not making that much, so you can only afford to pay them $2 a day. Lang, did that make sense to you? Okay. That's okay. That's why we're here, to make sure you understand. Anything else on the chapter 1 practice? Emmanuel, we haven't learned demand curve, so I'm not going to go over it now because you're not responsible for it. We're going to do it in the next unit. Question 5. The one on the business cycle, Tyler, you're not responsible for that because it's not in the chapter.
All right, thank you.
Number 3, which of the following is correct concerning opportunity cost? To the extent that you pay more for them, opportunity cost should not include the cost of things you'd have. All right, so what they're saying is you decide to go to college. Buying clothes wouldn't be an opportunity cost because you need clothes if you go to college or you stay home. But say you need a certain, like a uniform or something, or the clothes cost more at your college than they would at your house, then that would be an opportunity cost because your decision to go to college now costs you more money because say you have to buy it from the bookstore instead of from Target. Does that make sense to you, Alex? Okay. Anything else in chapter 1 before I ask about chapter 2? All right. Can we do... Oh, the answer, Henry, to number 3 was A as in alpha. Question 4. Sam and Sadie charge people to park on their lawn while attending a nearby craft fair. At the current price of $10, 8 people park on their lawn. All right. So at $10, 8 people park, making $80. Okay. If they raise the price to 15, only 6 people will park. 6 times 15 is $90. Whether they have 8 or 6 cars on their lawn does not affect their cost. So their costs are going to be the same. All right. So the answer is C, they're better off charging 15 and 10 than 10 because they're bringing in $90 instead of $80. Brendan, does that make sense now to you?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else in chapter 1? It's unlimited wants and limited resources, Owen.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Oh, and limited resources, does that make sense then?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on quiz 1? Okay, I'm gonna take you to practice quiz 2. Any questions on any of those? Number 9, you don't need to know. Number 10, you don't need to know. We have not learned either 9 or 10. Okay. Let me try to, Drew, get that. All right. Drew, you're a pizza maker. You can make 2 pizzas in an hour. I could sell them at $10 a pizza. I'm bringing in $20. Most I could pay you is $20, right? If I paid you more, I'd be losing money. I am a pizza maker. I can make 10 pizzas in an hour at $10. We sell them at $10 a pizza. I bring in $100. They could pay me $50, still make money. Does that make sense to you now? Number 5 on practice quiz 2. What a production possibility. All right. If it's bowed out, it's an increasing opportunity cost. All right. So as you produce other product, the opportunity cost is going to increase. Does that make sense, Griffin? Griffin, sorry.
Yeah, it works.
Okay. Any other questions on the second quiz? Number 2. All right. Sebastian, I know, excuse me. Sebastian and Henry both asked this, so it's okay. Factors of production are inputs. They're things that, they're things that help us make products. So by definition, factors of production are inputs. All right, like labor. Labor is an input in, like, say, making a pizza. You need the labor to make the pizza. The sauce and the cheese would be, okay, an input. Does that make sense to you guys, Henry and Sebastian? Okay. All right. Someone, I think, had 6. Chase, I think. That's a production if this country moves from A to B, none of them are correct. Okay. So this economy has moved from a point. No, A is efficient. So A is wrong because point A is efficient and so is point B. This economy has experienced economic growth. No, it hasn't. To get economic growth, you'd have to be shifting outward. It's not. This economy has increased in employment. No, it isn't. Same amount that's on the efficient line. This economy has moved from a point of efficient. No, to be inefficient, it would have to be D. So all A, B, C, and D are all wrong. So it's E, none of the above. And who asked that? I lost who asked that, but whoever asked that, is that clear now?
Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Now I got to try to scroll down here for the new message. Okay. All right. I think 4 and 12 people are asking for. 4. Ended completes his first week of employment working as a hairdresser at a salon. On Friday of the week, she receives a paycheck. All right. So she's from households. So working is C, right? She's from a household. She's giving labor in the factor market to a firm. So that's C. They're paying her income and wages. That's the firm's paying wages and income. That's D. So the answer is D, C, and D. Alex, does that make sense? Okay. Someone's asking for 12. Ah, nice. So this is the other circular flow graph you would need to know. If the outer loop is, all right. So what is, so let's look. If the outer loop is dollar, did A be right? The flow of goods and services from households to firms? No. Goods and services go from firms to households. Firms supply goods and services, households demand them. So they got that wrong. Flow of input, yeah, because households say are labor. So it goes from households to firms inputs. All right. And let's see, let me just see, I get the, what you call it, circular flow. Yeah. So here are the inputs on the bottom. And if you see the red line, it's going from households to firms. Okay. Nick, does that make sense to you now?
Yeah, I just mixed it up. I was
It's
thinking
okay.
about the answer.
That's why we're here. Any other questions? Seven and 10. 10, you're not responsible for. It's in the appendix, and I didn't tell you to do 10, so you don't need to know that. 7, the shift of the production frontier to A to B illustrates, all right, anytime it shifts that way, economic growth, that's C. Let's look at the other answers, though. Simultaneous technological advantage, and no, it's not batteries and bagels, because the only thing is shifting up is batteries. A reallocation of resources away from the production of bagels, no, it's just a shift in the curve. An increase in the demand, we saw today that the change in demand is not a shifter. So economic growth is the answer. Would a large workforce be a change in, I would call it a change in resource quantity. Human resources, usually some investment in people, like education or training. No, because it could have been something, Drew, like it could have been technology to make batteries better. So only the battery is going to shift out, but that's still going to cause economic growth. Does that make sense to you, Drew? Okay. Anyone else? Okay. I hope you guys found this helpful. I think you asked really, really good questions. If you haven't taken the practice quiz and you do it tonight and you're stuck, I'm going to be doing the review tomorrow at 7:45. I also videotape this in case like I went fast on something or you want to hear it again. I'll try to post that as soon as like Zoom sends it to me. Let me just check 9 and 10 to make sure, Drew. You do not need to know that. We're going to do that next unit. Okay, I'm just going to put it in unit 2. right, guys. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate your effort here.